Welcome back to the Buckeye Report from Ohio Stadium in Columbus on a day that, frankly, Ohio State fans probably won't soon forget, but maybe they wish they would. A tough day for the Ohio State Buckeyes in upset fashion, losing to a very talented Oregon team, 35-28. But today's primary concern, Andrew, is all about the defensive side of the ball. 636 yards of offense for the Buckeyes, but they lose. And frankly, never really threatened to tie the game. Frustrating, especially because the offense played that well and couldn't stop anybody.
Yeah, I think that's the crazy part about it is the fact that they had 650 yards of offense, and in a normal situation like that, you would think that they would have put up 49, 50, 56 points, and then to not be able to capitalize on those and get across midfield and then not be able to turn that into anything, that's a killer.
I think maybe the most disappointing thing for me was the rush defense. As the game went along, there was some predictability, at least the way I saw it, from Oregon in running the same kinds of plays. Obviously, the touchdowns were essentially, the same type of play, running toward the left-hand side. It stands out to me that Ohio State, on the defensive line, where they take so much pride, and for so long they've been such a good defensive line, they didn't really generate a whole lot of pressure. One tackle for loss the whole game, no sacks, no forced turnovers, and didn't really generate much leverage in some much needed situations. It was a really, really frustrating day.
I think that was kind of the part for me that threw me off, was the fact that they didn't get any pressure. That doesn't force Oregon into any situation that they're not gonna be able to capitalize on. And then on top of that, to sit there and run the same plays over and over. I mean, all three touchdowns or two touchdowns and a key fourth down play, those were all the exact same play. So to know that it was coming and not be able to stop it, that has to be frustrating.
How about the offensive side? Maybe let's try to focus on something positive, because this was obviously, you're judged on wins and losses. Not a good day. The Buckeyes lost. But C.J. Stroud ended up with a really impressive stat line. 35 of 54, 3 touchdowns. He was sacked twice at the very end of the game. That was it. 484 passing yards. Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, and Jackson Smith-Njigba all finished with more than 100 receiving yards. I mean, when the Buckeyes wanted to push things down the field offensively, it felt like they had options. Yeah. But again, I go back to the first half and wonder why some of the conservative play calls in the first half that, it just almost looked like it was a totally different playbook in the second half.
Yeah, and I kind of said this on Twitter today too. It kind of reminds me a lot of 2018, where they were very pass happy. It was kind of one of those things, and Day mentioned it as well in his press conference, was that they weren't as balanced as they hoped they were. And I think that kind of contributed to maybe getting off schedule a little bit and maybe not being able to move the ball as efficiently as you had expected them to. But then on top of that, there was a couple overthrows that CJ had too that I think that stand out. One to Garrett, I believe, and the other one to Chris on the opposite side of the field. If he connects on those, this might be a completely different game.
The fourth downs are the other big thing, I think, at least immediately in dissecting this, that stand out as frustrating. 0 for 4 in the first fourth downs. They got one late. The Buckeyes able to at least stay in it. But when you consistently turn the ball over on downs, you just feel like you're chasing the game the whole time. And again, I don't think Oregon was necessarily that much more talented than Ohio State. I don't even think it was an effort thing. I think it was just poor execution. And, do you attribute that to scheme? Is it personnel? Is it coaching? Somewhere along the way, something's got to get fixed, because this team is good enough to beat an opponent the caliber of Oregon, and today is a really, really tough loss.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that Oregon has more talent than Ohio State, so I think you definitely hit the nail on the head when you say that, it was just a matter of execution, and really the defense was out-schemed, and that's the thing that, it really comes down to Kerry Combs, and, I really think that that's something that he has to look into moving forward and say, hey, we got beat today, and a lot of that is my fault, and this is how we need to fix it, because honestly, if not, maybe that's not the answer.
Offensively at the running back spot, last week we saw such well-distributed opportunities. Maybe that's the best way to say it. You basically saw a different guy in there every series in the first half. Today, it was basically a two-man show with Mayan Williams and Travion Henderson. I don't think Master Teague got in the game today. I know he didn't have a carry, Look, Travion Henderson ran really hard, and I can see where this guy might become the Buckeyes' feature running back. Mayan Williams certainly deserves an opportunity to run. But I admit, in watching the game, a bit frustrating that Ohio State, between the tackles, even with an offensive line that wasn't necessarily getting pushed backwards, those runs that had been 5-6 yards a carry routinely last week were maybe 2 or 3 yards. Obviously, that's great for your defense, but it's not what we're used to seeing from Ohio State offensively.
Yeah, and I think the one reason that we didn't see Teague as much this week, and you kind of saw it in like the last week in the second half, was just because I don't think that he has the athleticism that's really needed to be able to move the ball, other than just straightforward. And I think that they were really trying to hope, kind of hoping that Travion today would be able to take that that next step and get an opening again and take the ball and go. And I think that will add a new dynamic to the offense once that's able to get going. But I think it goes back to the whole pass happy part of it. If they were able to be more balanced and get them more involved in the running game, I think that would have contributed to maybe not a stagnant offense, but something that seemed to start and sputter at times.
So the Buckeyes season is not over by any stretch. Let's not sit here and say that it's all done. In fact, Ohio State probably knows better than anybody you can lose a non-conference game early in the year and still make enough of a good impression to get in the playoff. You never know what happens. It obviously worked out in Ohio State's favor when this happened to them back in I guess, the 2014 season, 2015 national championship game. But this road just got a heck of a lot more difficult for the Buckeyes if they're going to go to the playoff, because right now, even though it's being looked over, there still is only a 4-team playoff, and the potential that that's going to change anytime in the immediate future remains unknown. So, Ohio State, if they want to win the Big Ten title and beat the team up north and put themselves in position to get to the college football playoff, they have absolutely no room for error the rest of the way, and it still might not be enough, but it could be.
Yeah, I think that's one interesting part about it is, when you sit there and you go through the season, you obviously want to put yourself in a situation where you don't have to rely on other teams. And I think that's, kind of where they're at now. It's, you can go and you can win the Big Ten, but if there are 4 undefeated teams at the end of the year, you're going to be left out because you didn't take care of business in the non-conference portion of the schedule. So it's tough to sit here and say, and, it's still September. There's a long way to go. Who knows? This could be like the 2007 season where it was just chaos and there was a 2-loss team that won the national title at the end of the year. But at the same time, you obviously want to take care of business now, and quite frankly, they didn't do that today.
Ohio State, the next couple of weeks now, obviously you're going to play 2 teams that you shouldn't have any issues with. You should be able to overpower Tulsa and Akron and not have to worry about, maybe not pulling away in dramatic fashion. It's not a knock on Tulsa or Akron as a program. It's just there's a clear-cut difference between the Buckeyes and what they're going to see the next couple of weeks. So I would tell fans to probably try to temper your expectations a little bit because you should expect that things will look better defensively the next couple of weeks, but it might be hard to really gauge progress without knowing exactly the caliber of team moving forward. And then, look, you go right back into the Big Ten and again, no margin for error. Got to figure out a way to get this defense back. I guess the last thing I want to say, speaking of the defense in coverage today, I actually thought man coverage was pretty good. Cam Brown played a good game. There were definitely some good moments. To me, the parts that were really bothersome were schematic or play calls where guys found soft spots in zones and they were on an island with nobody to cover them.
Yeah, and Day kind of talked about that today. Just I think they weren't necessarily expecting what Oregon ran in certain situations. Maybe it wasn't they showed it on film or they just haven't shown it, period, before. So to sit there and, go out there and then, you have to obviously make in-game adjustments, and I don't think that happened. But to your point that, there's obviously a lot of the season left, and the fact that, there's Big Ten play and they only have, these lesser teams coming up with Akron and Tulsa, we're really not going to be able to tell whether this defense has, really recovered from what it was today, or even taken a step forward until potentially the Big Ten championship or even a playoff or a bowl game or whatever. So it's just kind of one of those things, like today was the day that they needed to show it, and it just didn't happen.
Maybe the collective effort moving forward can be convincing enough to show some change, but you're right, this this was the statement game, and Buckeyes didn't take advantage. Again, season not over, but road to the college football playoff just got a heck of a lot more difficult here in Columbus. One other injury note of update, or injury update of note, let's try that again. Ryan Day said afterwards that the diagnosis had not been made on Josh Proctor's right leg injury, but if you watch the game or if you've seen any pictures of it, he was obviously was carted off. His right leg was put in an air cast, and Ryan Day did say in the post-game press conference that it quote, didn't look good. Kind of got the impression with the way that Proctor acknowledged the crowd that he probably realized that he wasn't going to be back on the field anytime soon. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to try to speculate at the nature of an injury, but his body language certainly seemed to indicate that it was a tough road in front of him. So hope he is okay, and I hope he gets healthy soon. And it puts the Buckeye secondary continually under the microscope because, you know, they've got to figure out a better answer at safety too. I'm not going to sit here and sing Josh Proctor's praises necessarily. He's been fine, but I think there were some instances where he was out of position, and it was frustrating.
Yeah, and I mean, to kind of that point, and I mentioned 2018 earlier, you know, it kind of gets into that territory where, you know, if you don't have that field general back there to be able to kind of direct things, you kind of wonder how it will, you know, go from there. Just, you know, that's a tough loss, obviously, for them. So it'll be interesting to see. You know, Bryson Shaw played, but I don't necessarily think that Bryson Shaw is a game-changing player that, you know, Josh Proctor can be when he's at his best. So, you know, you might see him be a little bit different in like their schemes moving forward, whether that's, you know, see a little bit of Ronnie Hickman in that spot. Maybe, you know, they bring some of the bullet players in there. You know, you'll get like Court Williams. I'm totally blanking. Yeah, Marcus Williamson. You know, like there's other players that they can put in those.
Hooker at some point.
Yeah. You would expect Marcus too, especially because he played for how many games last year? You know, there was 7 games that he played in or started in last year. So, you know, for him to be sitting out and not being a contributor, it's kind of a head scratching thing.
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at the film. I don't think I saw a lot of Craig Young today.
Yeah.
Did you see him?
I saw him briefly. I know it was in the north side of the field, toward the end of the third quarter. You know, it was just he was there, but you know, it was the same thing with Palaie. You know, they made brief appearances, but I don't think that, you know, it was anything like significant, if that makes sense.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, Buckeyes have some things to work on for sure, and obviously a tough loss. Not the kind of day Ohio State was hoping for, but you know, sometimes you need losses early in the season to grow and figure out how to be better. And the tenor from the press conferences, both on the coaching staff side and on the player side, everybody owned it and didn't really make excuses, and it's time for the Buckeyes to go back to work. So that's our instant analysis. For Andrew Lind, I'm Brendan Gulick. This is the Buckeye Report from Ohio Stadium after Oregon beats the Buckeyes 35-28. Please check out BuckeyesNow.com and all of our social media channels. We certainly hope you'll enjoy all of our Ohio State-related coverage. See you soon.